Prithivi Shantirantariksha Shantir Dyaus Shantir Disha Shantiravantara Disha Shantiragni Shantir Vayu Shantiraditya Shantish Chandrama Shantir Nakshatrani Shantirapa Shantiroshadaya Shantir Vanaspataya Shantir Gau Shantiraja Shantirashva Shantir Purusha Shantir Brahma Shantir Brahmana Shantir Shantireva Shanti Shantir Me Astu Shantihi. May there be peace on earth and in the sky. May there be peace in the water and in all directions. May there be peace in the plants, in the trees and in animals. May there be peace in every heart. May there be peace in everyone and in everything. Sarvetra sukhinas santu, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet, sarvastaratu durgani, sarvo bhadrani pashyatu, sarvas sadbuddhimapnotu, sarvas sarvatra nandatu. May all be happy and healthy. May all see what is good, and may no one experience misery. May all overcome their obstacles and acquire good tendencies. May people everywhere find joy and fulfillment. Let us now spend some time touching the center of peace and joy in our hearts. A good way to begin the practice is to withdraw the scattered energies of the mind and bring them to rest on one point. That point can be our own breathing. Let us therefore practice breathing with awareness. As we breathe in, let us visualize that our body and mind are being filled with love, strength, and compassion. And as we breathe out, let us release all the stress, anxiety, and exhaustion in the body and mind. Let us practice this way for a while. Let us now turn our attention to the region of our heart. Although God is present everywhere and in everyone, the divine presence can be felt most clearly in our own hearts. We can meditate in any way we have been taught. To remain focused, we can take the help of a short mental prayer or a mantra or a divine name. Let us now spend some time dwelling on the presence of God in our hearts. Shanti 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 Harihi Om.
We will sing Meditate on My Mind on page 18.
Meditate on thy mind, on the Lord Good morning. This is from the Vedanta blog on the Center's website. Among the many thoughtful pieces there, I find this entry helpful. It's called Our Addiction to Cosmic TV. It might seem like the TV appeared on the face of this earth only a few decades ago. Not quite. The TV has been here for as long as the here has been here. Clearly, I'm not speaking about the tiny box, not so tiny these days, in most urban households the world over. I'm referring to the huge box spanning our mind and the senses. It's so huge that not only can we not think outside the box, but we cannot even see beyond it. It's helpful to look at the world as a giant TV screen. An HD TV, no less, with 3D capability. Like any TV watching, so long as we see it from a distance, it's possible to enjoy it, or hate it, or be horrified by it, or at times get bored by it. If we go too close to the screen, we can no longer see the unceasing dance of color and form and ideas. We only see pixels which convey no meaning, no color, no significance. When we switch off the TV, we see the screen. The only thing that remains unchanged while we sit before the TV is the screen. In fact, we really have been seeing only the screen, but covered by the constantly changing colors and forms and sounds and ideas. Isn't the situation with our world similar? So long as we see it from a distance, so long as the world appears to be out there, we are watching the cosmic TV soap opera, which spans not years, but lifetimes. We get so absorbed into it that we forget that we are only watching it. It's a small leap from being an observer to being a participator. Why be a part of an audience when it is possible to go and act and be a star? In the process, we forget how to switch the TV off. We forget even where the switch is. But those who try to take a close look at the giant TV screen of the world suddenly find the forms and names disappearing into pixels that convey no logical meaning or significance or purpose. They try spiritual disciplines, which is like searching for the switch to turn the TV off. When the cosmic TV is finally turned off in the state of samadhi, the unchanging reality behind it is revealed. We were really seeing God all the time, but God was covered by the name and form, Nama Rupa. As we saw this covering and look at it to be the real thing. Once the covering is off, God stands revealed. When the Isavasa Upanishad says that we must cover everything with God, Isavasyam idam sarvam. What is really mean is that we must uncover God from everything else. Thank you.
Good morning. Today I'm going to read a few passages from a lecture given by revered Swami Tyagananda Maharaj, who was the 10th president of Ramakrishna Order. I'm going to read it from the book, Spiritual Life for Modern Times. And if you're interested, you can find a copy outside in our bookstore. Before I start reading, I'd like to spend a few seconds on a couple of references related to Swami Tyaganandaji's spiritual teachings. First of all, this book is a wonderful resource which was published from Chennai Ramakrishna Mission that contains 16 selected lectures and writings of Swami Tyaganandaji. There is a second, more recent comprehensive book published, I think 2013, which was actually a 2-volume set titled Swami Tyagananda, A Divine Life. So you can find a copy of this book if you're interested from Vedanta Press or from Amazon. So this particular book contains a more comprehensive collection of his lectures, writings, conversations, quotes, letters to devotees, and a special section which will contain personal reminiscence from all other monks. I'm mentioning all this because in this particular section of special or personal reminiscence, you'll find a chapter written by Swamiji himself, which was a wonderful tribute dedicated to his guru, Swami Tyaganandaji. Tyaganandaji had an unusually long tenure as president, so there was a generation of monks, including Swamiji, were blessed to receive mantra diksha and monastic vows. So if you haven't had a chance to read that article, I will definitely encourage you to read that. Personally, when I read that chapter, you'll find a deep-rooted connection with Swami Tyaganandaji and how specifically things has been done in this particular center. You can find like a real good connection. So let's go back to the reading. The title of that chapter, that lecture was Spiritual Practice, Part 1. So I'm going to read 3 non-consecutive paragraphs. So I'll hope you'll have a chance later to read the full lecture in its entirety. So this is the word from Swami Tyaganandaji. In spiritual struggle, mind is the most important instrument which we have to take into account. It is only by training, by disciplining the mind, by making the mind purer and purer, that we can attain to God realization. The scriptures say that our senses are meant to go outwards, seeking enjoyments through the senses. If we want to realize God, we have to check this outgoing tendency and turn the mind inwards, in search of the divinity that is already in the heart. So this is a long-drawn process requiring long preparation and struggle. For until the mind has firmly grasped the evanescence and worthlessness of all the attractive sense experiences, one cannot give up the longing for them, and until we give up these longings, we cannot help thinking about sense objects. The mind has been used to this kind of thinking of sense objects even in the past lives, and for years in the present life. It has been free to do as it likes, so it will not be amenable to any kind of control. For that, we have to reverse the whole process. Now, if you suddenly ask it to reverse the process, it will not obey, as that interferes with its freedom. So in order to succeed in this effort, we have first to discriminate or practice vichara between what is real and what is unreal. We have to convince as to what is real, and then we have to give up everything fleeting and therefore unreal. God alone is real, all other things are unreal. If we want eternal peace, we'll have to give up everything unreal. Only when we find that what we see is fleeting, we'll try to find out what is real. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, quote, "If I knew all these were real, I would have transformed Kamarpukur into gold. I would have but I know it will not be lasting," unquote. Similarly, another great devotee, a disciple of Sri Chaitanya, wrote to his brother who was immersed in worldliness a famous sloka in which he asked, quote, "Please consider where Ayodhya, Rama's Ayodhya, has gone. Please reflect where Dwaraka, the golden city of Sri Krishna, has gone. Know that there is nothing lasting in this world. Everything is fleeting. Try to know the real," unquote. Master Mahashaya, who wrote the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, when he went to Dakshineshwar, jotted down only some points in short sentences from the conversation he heard Sri Ramakrishna carrying on with the devotees. But afterwards, he repeatedly meditated on all the things that happened there at that time, and everything became clear to his mind. Every scene, every word came to his mind, and thus he enjoyed the company of Sri Ramakrishna and his devoted disciples. We too can do so if we meditate on the scenes and conversations of the gospel and get real holy company. There is no use of going through the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna or any great book in a hurry, as people do with a novel. While reading the Gita or the Upanishads, meditate on the meaning on every sloka. Swami Tyagananda used to meditate on every sloka of the Upanishads and used to realize the divinity expressed therein. Swamiji also used to do this kind of practice to realize the divinity. Thus, it will be seen that spiritual practice is a long-drawn process. You must be prepared for reverses and setbacks. You must have infinite patience and perseverance till you reach the goal, and also be full of confidence. You should not be afraid of reverses. You should not be despondent if you do not find results. You must be confident that you will realize God someday or other. This confidence must be there, and you will succeed in your effort in the long run. So perseverance, patience, and confidence that you will realize God must be there. You must persist from day to day, week to week, and year to year. If you become diffident, the whole process will be useless. Sometimes people think that they can realize God by self-surrender, but surrender doesn't come so easily. When you are egoistic, when you are conscious of your I and mine, total surrender cannot come. It is only when you have reached the furthest limits of your capacity and feel we have exhausted all our energies that God's grace will descend on us. True, unless He graciously grants His darshan, our efforts will not be successful, but both God's grace and individual effort are necessary. It is only when we have put forth our maximum effort and feel we cannot do any more that God's grace will come. We must be prepared to begin our quest here and now, for it is only in human life that God realization is possible, and human birth is difficult to get. We must be convinced that the purpose of life is God realization and all else is secondary. We would not mind any amount of sacrifice when we have the conviction that the purpose of life is God realization. We must brush aside all obstructions in our path. If we are convinced that life is of no value if God realization is not attained, then we have covered half the way, and the rest become easy. So we must discriminate and know the purpose of life, find the way, and follow the path. Fortunately, Sri Ramakrishna has done so much for us that we have to do only very little if we follow his path. The disciples of Sri Ramakrishna used to tell us that the favorable wind is there, and we have only to set the sail for the boat to reach the other shore quickly. We may have another life and the inclination to realize God also, but we may not have the congenial atmosphere, the favorable wind towards God realization. Life's purpose will not be served, so we must work for God realization in this life itself and attain the goal which has been made so easy by Sri Ramakrishna in this age.
உரை செய்த அறியாது நான் செய்த பிழையால் நீ வெறுத்தாயோ. அறியாது நான் செய்த பிழையால் நீ வெறுத்தாயோ. அந்தே வடிவம் கொண்ட ஐயா நீ சீனதாயோ. அந்தே வடிவம் கொண்ட ஐயா நீ சீனதாயோ. சிறியேன் என் சிறியேன் என் குறையெல்லாம் பொறுத்தே அருள் செய்வாய். 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 செந்தில் மாநகர் வாழும் செந்தில் மாநகர் வாழும் செந்தில் மாநகர் வாழும் தேவாதி தேவனே. செந்தில் மாநகர் வாழும் தேவாதி தேவனே. முருகா முருகா என்றால் முருகாதோ உங்கள் உள்ளம். வருவாய் வருவாய் என்றால் பரிவோடு வாராயோ. முருகா முருகா
Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmayedhi Rudrayatte Dakshinam Mukham Tena Mam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine Consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. I'd like to read to you a small extract from this book by Thich Nhat Hanh. The book is titled Peace is Every Step. These are extracts from the talks that he has given at different times. Very thought-provoking small pieces. So this section is titled Our Life is a Work of Art. After a retreat in Southern California, an artist asked me, "What is the way to look at a flower so that I can make the most of it for my art?" I said, "If you look in that way, you cannot be in touch with the flower. Abandon all your projects so you can be with the flower with no intention of exploiting it or getting something from it." The same artist told me, "When I am with a friend, I want to profit from him or her." Of course, we can profit from a friend, but a friend is more than a source of profit. Just to be with a friend without thinking to ask for his or her support, help, or advice is an art. It has become a kind of habit to look at things with the intention of getting something. We call it pragmatism, and we say that the truth is something that pays. If we meditate in order to get to the truth, it seems we will be well paid. In meditation, we stop and we look deeply. We stop just to be there, to be with ourselves and with the world. When we are capable of stopping, we begin to see. And if we can see, we understand. Peace and happiness are the fruit of this process. We should master the art of stopping in order to really be with our friend and with the flower. How can we bring elements of peace to a society that is very used to making profit? How can our smile be the source of joy and not just a diplomatic maneuver? When we smile to ourselves, that smile is not diplomacy. It is a proof that we are ourselves, that we have full sovereignty over ourselves. Can we write a poem on stopping, aimlessness, or just being? Can we paint something about it? Everything we do is an act of poetry or a painting if we do it with mindfulness. Growing lettuce is poetry. Walking to the supermarket can be a painting. When we do not trouble ourselves about whether or not something is a work of art, if we just act in each moment with composure and mindfulness, each minute of our life is a work of an art. Even when we are not painting or writing, we are still creating. We are pregnant with beauty, joy, and peace, and we are making life more beautiful for many people. Sometimes it is better not to talk about art by using the word art. If we just act with awareness and integrity, our art will flower, and we don't have to talk about it at all. When we know how to be peace, we find that art is a wonderful way to share our peacefulness. Artistic expression will take place in one way or another, but the being is essential. So we must go back to ourselves, and when we have joy and peace in ourselves, our creations of art will be quite natural, and they will serve the world in a positive way. Hope is important because it can make the present moment less difficult to bear. If we believe that tomorrow will be better, we can bear a hardship today. But that is the most that hope can do for us, to make some hardship lighter. When I think deeply about the nature of hope, I see something tragic. Since we cling to our hope in the future, we do not focus our energies and capabilities on the present moment. We use hope to believe something better will happen in the future, that we will arrive at peace or the kingdom of God. Hope becomes a kind of obstacle. If you can refrain from hoping, you can bring yourself entirely into the present moment and discover the joy that is already here. Enlightenment, peace, and joy will not be granted by someone else. The well is within us, and if we dig deeply in the present moment, the water will spring forth. We must go back to the present moment in order to be really alive. When we practice conscious breathing, we practice going back to the present moment where everything is happening. Western civilization places so much emphasis on the idea of hope that we sacrifice the present moment. Hope is for the future. It cannot help us discover joy, peace, or enlightenment in the present moment. Many religions are based on the notion of hope, and this teaching about refraining from hope may create a strong reaction. But the shock can bring about something important. I do not mean that you should not have hope, but that hope is not enough. Hope can create an obstacle for you, and if you dwell in the energy of hope, you will not bring yourself back entirely into the present moment. If you rechannel those energies into being aware of what is going on in the present moment, you will be able to make a breakthrough and discover joy and peace right in the present moment, inside of yourself and all around you. A mid-20th century leader of the peace movement in America, who inspired millions of people, said, "Therefore, there is no way to peace. Peace is the way." This means that we can realize peace right in the present moment with our look, our smile, our words, and our actions. Peace work is not a means. Each step we make should be peace. Each step we make should be joy. Each step we make should be happiness. If we are determined, we can do it. We don't need the future. We can smile and relax. Everything we want is right here in the present moment. Some interesting insights about hope and about dwelling in the present moment. None of these ideas are new in some sense, but these are things that we forget often in the course of our life. There is so many things we are expected to do. The expectations of the people around us, our own hopes and ambitions, we are just being pulled in many different directions and pushed from within by our own impulses. Which is why this practice of stopping can be helpful. In some sense, our daily practice of prayer and meditation is some kind of stopping. because at other times we are always planning what should be done tomorrow, what should be done this evening, or what happened yesterday. So there is a mind that is processing what happened in the past, planning for what is going to happen in the future. And so we are not really stopping. We are constantly on the move. And the exhaustion that many of us feel is more due to this pull and push of the mind than through physical labor per se. I think most urban lifestyles don't involve as much physical labor as those who work on farms, let's say. So there is much more physical activity. So many of us who might spend a major part of our day just sitting in one place or before a computer or reading or more sedentary schedule, still we might feel tired at the end of the day. Now clearly there is such a thing as brain fatigue. If we have read a lot or thought a lot, we can get tired. But a lot of exhaustion comes by this hold that the past and the future have upon us. And therefore, when we pray or when we meditate, if we can tell ourselves that for these next few minutes, could be 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I'm not going to think about the past. I'm not going to think about the future. The only thing that I can be busy with for the next few minutes is my spiritual ideal, God, or whichever way, whatever is the focus of our attention during our prayer and meditation. Because the spirit or the divine is always still. There is no movement there. Because the divine is infinite, God is all-pervading, there is no movement there. And the more my mind remains attached to that spiritual ideal, it will not move. And if it's not moving, it's stopping. And if it stops, then we get a measure of clarity. So even those who don't have a regular meditation practice, and of course even those who have, it will be helpful. Those who meditate are always trying to do this stopping at least once or twice every day. But in addition to that, we can try to find maybe a day in a week, even it's a one day in a week, and keep aside 10 minutes or 15 minutes where you can have some quiet. Ramakrishna used to say, retire now and then into solitude. And then he suggested 3 places we could go to. One was clearly a wooded area. It was easier to find some wooded area in his times than it's today. But if we can find some quiet spot in a nearby park, maybe we could do that. If that becomes difficult, one other thing we could do is some solitary part of our own home. If you have a room to yourself, maybe go into your room, close the door, and just be by yourself. Let your family know that nothing is wrong, that you just want to be quiet. Otherwise, they'll be like, what happened? Why is this person suddenly shutting themselves off? Or if none of that works, to kind of withdraw into your mind. And when we are just by ourselves, and then if it's possible to do the impossible task of switching off your phone for a few minutes, try to do that as well, because that's something that is preventing me from stopping. And we will see, even a short time spent that way, just being with our own selves brings about some clarity. We will make a new friend when we are just by ourselves, and that friend will be our own selves. it's paradoxical that because we are so busy with the world around us all the time, we don't have time for ourselves. People say that, oh, I don't have any time for myself, but they don't mean it the way I'm meaning it here. If we spend some time in solitude and stop thinking about the world or the past or the future, we will discover things about our own selves that we didn't know before. We will truly love ourselves. This false love of oneself manifests as kind of a narcissism. That's unhealthy. That doesn't help. But a true love, a real love for one's own real self, one's being, is essential. Because that is the source. If I truly love myself, then I'll be able to love the people around me. It's odd that sometimes we think a person who is selfish is the one who just loves. Those are the only people who love themselves. But actually, if we think about it, selfish people don't love themselves. In fact, selfishness is often a result of a very subtle form of self-hatred. There isn't peace inside. That's why people are selfish. A natural outcome of love within is that people become unselfish. All of these qualities that we seek in spiritual life, but with unselfishness, being loving, being kind, all of these things will flower naturally in our heart if we just learn to be with our own selves. And so some of the ideas that this reading provides encourage us, inspire us to find time, even if it's 5 minutes in the course of a day, to just quiet down, just stop and see. And those who have practiced this, even imperfectly, have found that this kind of practice brings about a deep inner stability. It brings about a kind of peace that gives clarity and helps us make choices in life or take decisions in life which we will not regret later. And so in order to make the right choice, to take the correct decisions, which we will be happy we did, we need a calm, clear, composed mind. And this habit of stopping and being with ourselves can be very helpful. Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. Next Sunday, our topic for satsang will be 5 verses on spiritual practice. This is a hymn that Shankaracharya composed called Sadhana Panchakam. It's a beautiful hymn. So we will take a brief look at it and see how the ideas in it can be helpful in our own spiritual practice. On Wednesday, we will continue with the study of Swamiji's lectures at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago. And on Tuesday and Saturday, our meditation will also continue as usual. So now we'll do the prayer, then we'll have Sarvamangala, and then we'll celebrate the birthdays of everyone in the month of November. So let's do the prayer now. May the Divine Being, who is the Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, the Great Spirit of the Native Americans, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May we be granted strength, freedom, and clear understanding. May we learn to see God in our own hearts and in everyone around us. May God bless us all and fill our hearts with gratitude, grace, and love. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto you.
We will sing Sarvamangala on page 5.